Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my labor and delivery with Everleigh. I already did my labor and delivery vlog, but it was very all over the place, so today I'm just going to sit down and kind of go from start to finish, how my labor went and all of that. So stay tuned and let's get right into the video. Before you watch this, I just want to put a little disclaimer that I say the word like probably 700 times, but I also filmed this video probably like 6 times, and I didn't want to do it again. This was the best one I had. I finally got all the information in, so I just want to apologize for how annoying I sound when I say like literally 700 times. So basically, my mom came over on Monday, July 8th, and we were watching Netflix. We were watching Nailed It, and my dog was freaking out because her tennis ball was under the couch, so I pulled it out and let her go get her tennis ball, and I pushed it back in, and the second I sat back down on the couch, my water broke. I stood up and I was like, Mom, I think my water broke, and I was like leaking all over the floor. My mom was like, yeah, like we need to go to the hospital. So I called Colin, and he was about to get off in like 20 minutes because it was 7:40 when my water broke, and I was like, hey, my water broke, and he said, okay, we'll go to the hospital. And I was like, well, I don't have a car here because my car doesn't have air conditioning and it's been sitting at his grandparents' house because we just haven't been using it. I don't really go anywhere. And he had his car at work, and so he was like, okay, bye, and hung up on me. And then he called me back while I was like cleaning myself up in the bathroom, like changing my clothes. And he was like, hey, my mom's on her way to get you, like make sure you're ready, like I'll meet you like somewhere like before we go to the hospital. So we like finished getting all my stuff together because I had all my like hospital bag and stuff was packed, luckily, but it was in my car at his grandparents, so his mom ended up having to go back and get it later and bring it to the hospital, which was like fine. But I like grabbed like last minute stuff. I had like my makeup here, and like I grabbed like water bottles because I was like super thirsty. I like ate a snack because I knew that I would be able to eat at the hospital and all that. So his mom got here and picked us up, and we met Colin at the gas station, and we left probably like 8 o'clock, and so we met him at the gas station, all that. We got to the hospital at exactly 8:40, so exactly an hour after my water broke, and we were at the hospital. I got checked in, and I had been there a couple times just because I had some like labor scares and also like some other like complications and stuff. And the people at the front desk, they were like, oh, like we heard your name, and we were like, oh, like what happened now? And then we heard that your water broke, and like we were super excited. Also, sorry, I like wrote down some of the times and stuff on this thing so I wouldn't like leave anything out. But so I got there, and they called my doctor to like see, because my water broke, but I didn't start having contractions, like I didn't go into labor. And they called my doctor to see if they wanted to wait and see if I'd go into labor on my own or if I should start Pitocin. So I didn't start Pitocin until like 10:30, and I didn't start getting contractions until like 10:50. But they didn't really hurt or anything, so I was like not gonna get the epidural obviously until I needed it because I was still like 2.5 centimeters. And then at like midnight, they were 2 minutes apart. They still didn't really hurt that bad, but my back was like in a lot of pain. I didn't really have like the pain in like my stomach or like my abdomen or anything, and I was fine. And then it was like 2:20, and I was in so much pain, so I got the epidural, and Colin stayed in the room with me. I can only have one person in there, so our moms like went downstairs, and Colin like almost fainted when I got the epidural because he looked at the needle even though I told him not to. And I was like I was sitting on the hospital bed, and he was sitting in like a stool in front of me, and I was holding his hands, and he like slowly started slipping, and I was like, went off on him, and I was like, Colin, I was like, what do you think you're doing? I was like, why does it feel like I'm holding your hands? You should be holding mine. Like, I'm the one that's going through something. Like, you're just sitting there. And he was like, sorry. And he did my epidural and put my catheter in and all that. And I'm terrified of needles, and it really was not bad at all because he just gave me like a shot to numb it and then waited a little bit and then put like the tubing in and all that, and it was totally fine. And then after that, I decided I was going to take a nap because I no longer was in pain, and I wanted some sleep because I knew that she would be coming like pretty soon, and I didn't want to be like totally exhausted and a mess. And my mom stayed awake because she could not sleep because she was obviously like worried and like stressed out about like me and the baby. So I slept and she watched me and watched the monitor that like had my contractions, like the baby's heartbeat, baby's like movement on it. And at like 4 o'clock I woke up and I was like compulsively like shaking. Like I had my hands up by my like chin like this, and I was just shaking. And my mom was like, what's wrong, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm freezing. And I was so cold. And she thought I was having a seizure because when she had me and when she had my brother, she got post-eclampsia, and she had like really bad seizures with both of us. So we thought that like that was happening to me. And the nurse came in, they put like 3 warm blankets on me, and they kept checking my temperature, and I didn't have a fever, and that was like the only thing the nurse could think of. And eventually, like, they kept checking it, and then eventually, like, I had a fever, and it was like 102 degrees, and they were like, okay, like, we need to get this baby out, because like if you're hot, like, she's gonna be hot, and all that. So at 5:30 I started antibiotics, and I also got put on oxygen because I was like so anxious that I couldn't breathe, because I was like super worried about the baby, because they kept telling me like since I had a fever that she was gonna get a fever, and that like if I was sick, like she could get sick, and like all this stuff, and it was like really freaking me out, and I like couldn't breathe, and I was like crying. And they like told me like, you know, like if it doesn't get better, like you might have to have a C-section, blah blah blah, because I wasn't really progressing very fast. And like shortly after that, so I'm going through all of that, and then my epidural wears off, and I was like 8 centimeters at this point, and I was in so much pain. I was like crying, and I was like, I like can feel like everything. So they had to bring back in the anesthesiologist and like pump more in or whatever, and then I was fine. And then it was like 6:15, and her heart rate started dropping every time I'd have a contraction, which was not safe because I was having contractions like every minute and a half to 2 minutes. And they said that, you know, like obviously it could hurt her. So I like kept like rolling from side to side, and like that was helping. And then she was like, you know, like I'm gonna check you one last time. She's like, if you're not fully dilated, like we're gonna have to do a C-section. And I like wasn't against a C-section, I was just like more afraid of it because I didn't like know as much about it as I did with like vaginal birth. And I was like, okay, like whatever. And then they checked me at like 6:20, and I was fully dilated, and her head was like right there. So they called my doctor, and they were like, hey, like you need to get here. And he was there in like 5 minutes. I started pushing at like 6:34, and when I was pushing, like I could not really feel anything like at all. Like I could feel like the pressure from her head down there, but I could not like tell that I was like if I was pushing or not really. And I felt like I was like pushing with my face because I was like making it to where like I literally couldn't breathe. My face was all like tight and like red. And so I was pushing her, and my doctor like yelled at me and was like, listen, like you need to push her out. Like if you like don't get her out, like things like bad things could happen, like blah blah blah. And like I started crying because he was yelling at me, and he's like really really nice. And then I pushed a couple more times, and I had her at 6:48. And so I didn't push very long, which I'm very grateful for, because I probably would have fainted from pushing out of my head. But then my doctor was like, I'm sorry I yelled at you. He was like, I knew that if I didn't yell at you, you weren't gonna do it. And so I had her, and then they put her on me for like 2 seconds, and then they took her and like were cleaning her off and like checking her weight and all that. And she was like breathing funny, and she had a high temperature. Her oxygen intake was really bad, and her heart rate was like weird. So I got to hold her for like a minute, and then they took her back to, sorry, my dog played the TV. They took her back to the special care unit, which is like the hospital I went to, like their version of like a NICU. And like we're like running tests on her, like making sure she was okay. And then once they got her fever down and they got her on some antibiotics, and like we're monitoring her heart rate, and it like got back to normal and all that, they brought her back, and I got to feed her for the first time, and we got to hold her for a long time, like spend time with her. And so for most of the part she was in the room with us, except for when we went to bed. I did send her to the nursery because everyone told me that I should, because that way I could catch up on sleep before I came home. And I'm so glad that I did, or else I would have been like 15 million times more exhausted. And the first night we came home, she kept me up till 5 in the morning, so I'm really glad that I got that sleep. But basically, after like we were there for a couple days, we were scheduled to be sent home on Thursday, and she was born on Tuesday. And then they like took like my placenta and like her umbilical cord and stuff to be tested for like bacteria and all that, and my placenta started going bacteria, so they had to put her on antibiotics and like wait and see if her umbilical cord would come back with any, and they had to keep running tests on her because since I had antibiotics being pumped through me when I was in labor, like she had them too, so they just wanted to make sure that the antibiotics like weren't like covering up like something that she had. And so we ended up leaving on Friday, but like Thursday or like Wednesday to Friday was like so scary because she was just like hooked up to IV. She had heart monitors on, they were monitoring her oxygen, they had to keep sticking her foot because she had I'm drawing a blank. She was jaundice and all this other stuff, and it was like really freaked me out. I literally like laid in bed and cried for like a really long time because I was stressed out. I didn't know how my dog was gonna get to her vet appointment because we were going home a day later than we thought, and she was like sick, and I like didn't know if she was gonna be okay or like when we got to go home, because at first they were like, oh, we're gonna take it day by day and like we'll let you know when you can go home, but then Friday morning they were like, hey, you guys can leave. But it was just in the moment like really scary. Then we came home and everything has been so amazing, luckily. But as far as like, we're gonna go back because I'm like all over the place, but we're gonna go back to like when I was in the hospital. So postpartum in the hospital for me, because I got that epidural, was so much worse than my labor and delivery and having her and pushing her out and all that. I did not tear, luckily, which was like one thing I was super scared of because I know a lot of people like tear really bad. I know my mom tore like really, really bad, and I thought it was gonna be like a genetic thing, like if she tore I was gonna tear, and I didn't, so I'm really happy about that. But like I couldn't walk to like go to the bathroom by myself for like hours because of the epidural, so like that was kind of boring, so I just had to lay there, and I didn't have her for a while because they like took her back and like bathed her and all that. And I didn't get to shower until like Wednesday, I think, so I just felt disgusting, and we had visitors and all that. But every like 15 minutes they would come in, like push on my stomach really, really hard to like get my uterus to contract to like go back to its regular size, and that hurt so bad because I felt like they were pushing their hands all the way down to my spine, and I was like bleeding really bad because they because like obviously like, my uterus was going back to its normal size, and I was like getting rid of like all like the extra stuff inside me and all that. And I literally was wearing adult diapers because they were way more comfortable than the pads that they give you at the hospital. They're literally like this big, and they like go in these mesh underwear, and it's just not a comfortable situation. But I remember going to the bathroom, like even going pee would take me so long at first because I would pee and then I'd have to like use like the Perry bottle of water to like clean up, and then I'd have to like pat it dry, and then I'd have to like put Dermaplast spray on, and then I'd have to make sure that I changed my pad and like everything, and I had to put an ice pack, and I had like witch hazel pads, and it literally would take me like 10 minutes to go to the bathroom. It was ridiculous. But since I've been home, like I really like postpartum has been like fine for me. I'm like barely am bleeding. I don't know, I sleep fine. She is an amazing sleeper. We go to bed at like 11 every night. She'll wake up at like 2 and is hungry, and she like goes right back to sleep, and then she'll go wake up at like 5:30 and is hungry and like wants to be up for a little while, and then goes back to sleep, and then she'll wake up at like 9:30, which is when Colin goes to work, so it's like fine because I usually wake up around then anyways. Jade, stop. And then we brought her home, and our dog has been incredible with her. I was so scared that she was gonna like hate her and like try to bite her and like all this stuff, because she doesn't bite. Like right now she's just like playing with me. I think she wants to go outside, but she has been so good. Like she like lays by her and stuff. I'll like insert pictures from since we've been home. But yeah, basically that was my labor and delivery. It was really simple. It was painless pretty much, except for like my fever and like all that, and then her being sick after. But like the actual like labor and delivery went really smooth. I was only in labor for 11 hours, so not as long as people that are in labor for like 25 hours and stuff. So I'm really grateful for how it went. I couldn't imagine it have gone any smoother. Like, I'm just happy that she was healthy. Like, she's healthy now and she's home and all of that, which I'm actually gonna grab her really fast. So this is my sweet girl, Jade, I know. This is Everleigh Lorraine, and when she was born, she was 7 pounds and 3 ounces, and she was 20 inches long. She is the smallest baby to ever be born in my family, and she looks just like her dad. I carried her around for 9 months for her only to have my hair color, but all the heartburn was worth it because all of her hair is so cute, and she's amazing. So all at once, my dog decided that she really needed to go outside, my phone died, and Everleigh got hungry. So I don't remember where I was at, but I think just like introducing her. But basically, she's the best thing that's ever happened to me and Colin. She's brought us so much closer together. She's incredible. She sleeps amazing. She eats amazing. She's just perfect. Like, literally, I couldn't imagine having like a more perfect baby. She's beautiful. She's happy. She's healthy. And I literally couldn't ask for more. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll make sure to get back to you. First, here's a montage of pictures from when I brought her home.